Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to the listening public here on the island of Nevis, our dear friends on our sister island of St. Kitts, brothers and sisters. Good evening to the rest of you listening in the Caribbean, those in the diaspora, our brothers and sisters all across the Caribbean Sea, but especially those in places like Anguilla and St. Martin, those in the USVI and the British Virgin Islands, in Puerto Rico and elsewhere. Our students who are studying at the University of the West Indies, good evening. Good evening to our friends and family in the United States and Canada, those in the United Kingdom, those of you who are as far away as Taiwan, good evening. I am Mark Brantley, Premier of Nevis, but for tonight's purposes, the host of On The Mark. And I'm here this evening, as I try to be every Wednesday between the hours of 8 and 10, to have a discussion with you, the members of the public. We've been doing this for a little while. In fact, the memory suggests, the history would suggest that we've been doing this now for almost 15 years. And therefore, we are here, and we are delighted to be here and to be part of the Von Radio family and a staple of shows that are consistent here on this radio station. We thank all of you for logging in. Those of you who are watching via YouTube or Facebook, we thank those of you who are listening via the World Wide Web. We thank those of you who are listening at 860 on your AM dial. This is On The Mark, and I'm your host, Mark Brantley. Now, there's a lot that's happening, but let me start because, of course, I am attired in a jacket this evening. You must wonder why. I tend to be more casual, but I'm in fact coming from the ecumenical service put on by the Nevis Christian Council and the Evangelical Association. Today, of course, being the official start of the hurricane season. And each year they put on this service as they seek to ask for God's protection on our island and on our country and on our people from hurricanes and storms. And sadly, I had to leave a bit early to get here. Not sad that I'm here, but sad that I had to leave the service because I thought it was a very moving service that they were having. And in fact, the sermon was being delivered at the time. And what a sermon, in fact, it was. The bits that I was able to hear while I was there spoke, of course, to the storms that we are praying against, the storms being in hurricanes, but also the storms of life. Many of us are going through great difficulty in our lives on a number of fronts. It could be health issues, it could be financial issues, it could be relationship issues, it could be a sense that we are not valued, a sense of unfairness, it could be political, as we are experiencing now in our country, some uncertainty. Whatever the storms may be, I would want to credit and say kudos to these two associations, the men and women of God, who called the nation to service tonight and to worship at the St. George's Anglican Church in an effort to seek God's favor upon us. I believe it is obvious to us all that Jehovah God has been with us. I do not say that we deserve it, but I say He has been with us, because season after season in the past we have not been afflicted by storms. And I would want us to continue to pray for protection. But something interesting was said tonight, because it was said that even though we might be fearful, and even though we pray for protection, we must also be prepared. And I would want to emphasize that. And tonight, of course, at the very start of the hurricane season for 2022, we had the members of the church and the members of the congregation praying for God's protection and His unmerited grace. And whilst we pray for spiritual and divine protection, there's also, of course, the requirement that we prepare. And you will be hearing more from our disaster preparedness folks, who have done and continue to do an excellent job under the leadership of the Honorable Alexis Jeffers as the minister, but under the day-to-day leadership of Mr. Brian Dyer, who does a truly phenomenal job of keeping us safe, ensuring that we are prepared, and ensuring that we are in a position to respond. And so, ladies and gentlemen, at this the start of our hurricane season, I urge you all to pay attention, to listen to your radios, to pay attention to the officials at the Nevis Disaster Management Department, to the bulletins right here on Von Radio, to pay attention and to prepare yourselves. ensure that you have, of course, the necessaries in terms of dry foods, ensure you have water, ensure you have batteries for your flashlights, etc. You will get these warnings. Ensure you acquaint yourself with where the nearest shelters are. We as a government commit to you that we will do our part, but you must also do your part. Ensure that your homes are secured. For those of you who are uninsured and you could afford insurance, get some home insurance. All of this is important as we prepare. But tonight, at the St. George's Anglican Church, we also prepared in terms of prayer and asking for God's divine intervention to keep us safe. And so I thank again the Evangelical Association and the Christian Council, these men and women of God who have come together to offer prayers on our behalf. God bless them for all that they do for us and all that they continue to do for us. We are where we are because of the prayers of so many that God has spared us for so long. Now, ladies and gentlemen, a lot is happening in our country. And I had not intended tonight to spend too much time on whom I believe we can all safely refer to now as the former Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris. But I am concerned when people hold themselves out as leaders and that they engage in so much falsehood in an effort to support an unsupportable position. When people do not have an answer to the truth, they resort to obfuscation, they resort to falsehoods. And I confess that I did not waste my time today to listen to the former Prime Minister. Why should I? He ought not to command the listenership of anyone at this point. He has so disgraced himself and the office of the Prime Minister. But on my way here, I was sent a clip because, of course, he has his minions who send out these things. I don't know what it is they're seeking to achieve by doing so. And I felt it important to respond to a few points that I heard in that clip. He, of course, naturally is, because he's a politician and he understands politics, he knows that the people of Nevis are upset that we have not got anything close to what we ought to get from the citizenship by investment money. Some have coined it fair share, equitable share, pro rata share, whatever you want to call it. He knows that Nevis has got nothing close to what Nevis should get. He knows that Nevis has got nothing close to what he agreed. And I believe that is an important point. To what he, Dr. Timothy Sylvester Harris, agreed and appended his signature to, affixed his signature to. He signed it, not me. He signed it. On the Charlestown steps, he said Nevis will get 25% of this money. That is what the pro rata share works out to. He agreed. He signed. Now, he starts to sing a different tune. This is what you call dishonesty. Lack of character. And this is what has led us to where we are now. A lack of character, a lack of integrity in the former Prime Minister. That is the fundamental issue. And I don't intend to waste my time dealing with the past. I have said before that some of us find ourselves in the checkout lounge. And he has been in the checkout lounge of the office of the Prime Minister for some time now. If nobody has told him, then I hope that they will replay this clip for him. He's done. And he won't be coming back. And that's as simple as that. I don't care what they do. I don't care what they say. I don't care how much they spend, who they try to bribe. He's done. And he's not coming back. But when I listen to this clip, here is this gentleman, and I use the term advisedly, who is going to suggest that Premier Vance Emery before me, and then I, Mark Anthony Graham Brantley, the son of Irvin and Vicky, that we tell him that the amounts that Nevis get was an acceptable share. He said that was what we say was our fair share. Well, I want to know if the gentleman habla español while I speak English. Because I have the correspondence to show. And I will share that correspondence since he feels that he had bigger than everybody else. I will share that correspondence with the public. Because in my correspondence I was very specific in saying that we want an interim. Interim. That word is very important, ladies and gentlemen. An interim amount. And you know why we needed an interim amount? Because he refused to deal with the substantive issue of what the share that Nevis was to get. And so when I wrote, for example, as I did in January this year, I said the interim amount of 3.75 was no longer adequate. I want an interim amount of $5.5 million. And not only that, I said until June, this month, is when I wanted that amount. Because by this month, I expected that we would have resolved this long outstanding issue. I will share my letter. I have a big following on social media. I will share it on social media. I will share it with the press tomorrow. Because it is dishonest. It is false. And if I am to use inelegant language, it is a lie to suggest that I, as Premier of Nevis, have ever said that this is Nevis' fair share. But what happened? I can't count money. Nevis can't understand money. How could $5.5 million a month, $66 million a year be considered a fair share when the Citizenship by Investment program is bringing in $500 and $600 and $700 million a year? Help me to understand that. How could 7%, 7% over the last several years, while he kept 93% in St. Kitts, be considered a fair share? I don't like when people treat the people of Nevis as if we are foolish, because we are not. We may be quiet, we may be long-suffering, but don't tell nobody you fool us, because you're not smart enough to fool Nevis people. You're not smart enough, and if you learned anything from this father, you say you come from cotton ground, he should have tell you, Nevis people are not stupid people. So if, and I challenge tonight the former Prime Minister, if you have any correspondence from me as the Premier of Nevis, saying to you that 3.75 million a month or 5.5 million a month is what we in Nevis consider to be our fair share, please share it with the public. Please, I beg of you, sir, share it. Because I know that what we said to you was that this should be an interim arrangement. And it should be interim because you kept promising that you will address the substantive issue of Nevis's fair share. And so this was a situation where we said, well, all right, pay us this in the meantime while we resolve that issue. And every time I wrote on that issue, I've shared with the public time and time again. I wrote once, Finance has to study it, was his response. I wrote twice, good news, Finance is almost ready with their report. I wrote thrice, oh, I need to put a committee in place to study the matter. I wrote 4 times, oh, the World Bank now has to get involved. And that is why the interim payment was necessary. Because he kept kicking the can down the road on the substantive issue. And my letter of January of this year, I was very specific. That the people of Nevis demand $5.5 million per month for the first 6 months of this year until June that we have just entered today. And that interim payment should end by June, because by June I expected to have in place a substantive solution to this long-standing problem. That was the arrangement. So in omitting the word interim, and as I said, I will share the correspondence, because that was always the basis of our conversation. You say you're not ready yet. You need advice of finance, you need committee, you need report, you need World Bank. Okay, pay Nevis this in the meantime. In the meantime, that's what interim means. How now you come to try to suggest to sensible people that we over here seeing $600 and $700 million being earned, and we're going to say, okay, just give us 7%. That is fair? That is fair? I tell people all the time, not because I'm wearing a jacket tonight, you know, I'm going to use my local and colloquialism all the time. I look on my passport, I see Mark Anthony Graham Brantley. Me no see Kunumono on my passport. And I don't like when people try to treat me as if I'm stupid, like I went Saturday school. I may not have a PhD, but that doesn't mean that I can't read and write and understand arithmetic. And it is high time that the people of Nevis stop tell people, listen, don't forward with us. Stop forward with us. We're not crazy people over here. Sensible, intelligent people who understand numbers. So again, I issue the challenge, open challenge this evening, that the former Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, has any correspondence from me, Mark Brantley, saying that this is considered Nevis's fair share. Let him share it with the public. Let him do so. I am so happy I was trained as a lawyer. And I'm happy I was trained as a lawyer because as a lawyer, I was always taught to document issues. Sometimes I have a conversation with someone. When the conversation is over, I write to them, dear sir, I would like to recap our conversation. You know why? People like to say you no say. Or they like to say you say what you did not say. And I always found it interesting because throughout the time I've known this gentleman, the former Prime Minister, Dr. Harris, he always used to say to me, Mark, what you like to write so? Man, pick up the phone and call me. You always want to write to me. Man, Mark, call me sometime, man. Let me talk on the phone. Little did I know that it's a scampishness. Because if I didn't have my letters now, you imagine what he said today? I couldn't rebut. People would be saying, oh, well, me don't know who to believe because he say, she say. Sorry, not he and she. He say. Lest I be misconstrued. And I am saying that the correspondence is there and it is clear, and I will share it to put the matter beyond doubt. So let me move on from that one point and address a few others. I have marveled at the ability of our former Prime Minister to document with such detail everything he claims the island and people of Nevis have got. So he said, I pay for this, I pay for that, I give them this, I give them that, I give them 50% increase from this to that, I give them another 46% increase. He has never once said, well, how much money has the Citizenship by Investment program earned? He has never once said, well, how much money did you keep in St. Kitts? You see, brothers and sisters, the whole conversation is meaningless unless you start from there. How do you know if the piece of cake that you got is a fair share of the overall cake if you don't know the size of the cake? I'm sure even students in primary school, at the Ivor Walters Primary and the Charleston Primary, Joyceton Library, whichever primary school they are, EPPS, I'm sure they could understand that. How do you know if the slice of the cake that you have got is fair unless you know what the size of the overall cake is? And I must confess, ladies and gentlemen, that I have some level of disappointment with my friends in the media, because time and time again they've allowed our former Prime Minister to go on at length about what he sent to Nevis. I have never heard them ask him, well, since you know so well what was sent to Nevis, could you also enlighten the nation about how much was earned by the program? How big is the cake? And how much, therefore, of the cake did you keep for yourself? Because you see, only when you know that can you talk about fear. But he doesn't address that at all. In none of the speeches over the years has he ever addressed that issue of what is the size of the cake. Oh, Nevis get a slice and Nevis never used to get none before. What am I make nice for? And the people of Nevis must say, thank you, we get a slice. Well, it was my team that I put together that did the research, you know. And I have not even yet got into 2022 up to the end of 2021. $5.3 billion. That was the size of the cake. 5,300 million. That was the size of the cake. Of which the people of Nevis got just over 300 million. It therefore means that we got 7%. Our slice represented 7% of the overall cake. Now, before God and man, how could that be considered fair? When we have 25% of the population in Nevis, and when the document that he signed, I cannot resile from that, the document that he signed, that catapulted him to the office of Prime Minister. He now looks on it, spits on it, and says, I never intended to honor that agreement that I signed. Well, what manner of man is that? What manner of man is that? That lack of integrity and common decency. No amount of going to church on Sunday and taking photographs could fix that. Can't fix it. Because integrity is something that you must have in your dealings. And if that was the bargain, and on the basis of that bargain, you benefited because you became Prime Minister. How now? The bargain is no good. Is it because the bargain will benefit the people of Nevis? But the people of Nevis have not sought to get anything to which they are not entitled. They have not sought to get anything to deprive the people of St. Kitts. To the contrary, we have said, St. Kitts, you are the bigger, the more populous. You take 75%. Well, good God have mercy. If you take 75 and we get 25, what could be the argument there? Nobody in Nevis is saying we must get 50 and you take 50. We said no, we must get 25 based on our population. You get 75 based on yours. But no, they say we must take the 75 and then we must take and take until we get 93. And you in Nevis must get 7. And Mark Brantley is a rabble-rouser, troublemaker. He talking politics because what? I say that Nevis people need their money. Well, if that is politics and that is rabble-rousing, then call me the politician and rabble-rouser in chief, because I'm not going to resile or stop. I will not stop until the people of Nevis get what rightfully belongs to them. And who vex, that is their business. That have nothing to do with me, you know. Because for too long, those who have been oppressing the island of Nevis are holding that oppression and seeking to suggest that they have been our savior. I fought against the Douglas NRP regime, the Labour NRP regime. You know why? Because of the treatment that was meted out to Nevis. We said we would do better, and we came with a document that was formulated and that was signed by Timothy Harris, by Van Samuel of blessed memory, and by Sean Richards. This is our commitment to each other. This is our commitment to the people of St. Kitts. This is our commitment to the people of Nevis. And after using that document to springboard into office, people start to say, well, it's just a piece of paper. Just a piece of paper. And we never had any intentions of honoring that. On that little clip that was sent to me, because as I said, I wouldn't waste my time to listen to the former Prime Minister at this stage. On that little clip that was sent to me, I hear the gentleman with a bold-faced, brass-faced lie that he's buying the medicines for Nevis. My brothers and sisters, Nevisians, residents, let me tell you all something. We cannot allow these things to be unchallenged because they are false. St. Kitts and Nevis as a country is a party to the OECS agreement on procurement of drugs. Therefore, the federal government is the entity which engages with the OECS authority in St. Lucia, that does the bulk purchasing of drugs for the OECS region. And they therefore purchase drugs as the entity that is charged with that purpose on behalf of the Federation. The island of Nevis cannot go direct to purchase on its own. St. Kitts and Nevis, the country, is the relevant authority. But what the gentleman failed to say is that the Ministry of Health in St. Kitts bills us in Nevis. They send the bill to us, and we pay for our pharmaceuticals. So the way the system is set up, they buy because they are the agency that is recognized to buy. They send Nevis portion to Nevis, they send a bill, and we pay them. In fact, on my way here, I spoke to my officials in health, and they're telling me that we sometimes have great trouble getting the bill because we keep asking them and asking them. We've had meetings, send the bill on a regular basis so we can pay regularly. They suggested to me, they think it was in 2019, close to the Christmas season, they sent a bill of over $600,000 to Nevis and wanted immediate payment. And we tell them, no, we couldn't pay that immediately. If you were sending us the bill every month or every 2 months, then we would handle it. Because of that difficulty in coming up with that lump sum, I am advised by our technicians in Nevis that since sometime in 2020 or 2021, we have been paying $30,000 per month to St. Kitts. And then when we get the bill, we reconcile. $30,000 per month to ensure that the people of Nevis have medication in the hospital and at the health centers. And so you must ask yourself, is it that the former Prime Minister Timothy Harris is uninformed, or is it just malicious, lie and bad when it comes to make that kind of statement to the nation that St. Kitts is paying for the drugs and pharmaceuticals and medication that the people of Nevis uses? Is it that he doesn't know he has the Minister of Health there, still a part of the kangaroo cabinet? So why didn't he ask her, what is the situation in relation to this payment? Because I'm sure she must be able to tell him that the people of Nevis pay for the drugs and pharmaceuticals that are consumed on the island of Nevis. Absolute rubbish. So let me address a few other things that I heard in this clip. As he tries to say he's been so generous, I think he used that word, to the people of Nevis. Well, how you could be generous to us when you're withholding the money to which we are entitled? The gentleman said, and I use that term cautiously when I say gentleman, that he pays for the security forces in Nevis. Well, I recall an instance when I used to practice law, that I was at the magistrate's court and a gentleman was in the box and he beat his chest and he said, I don't support my children. And the magistrate said to him, well, what you want? A medal? That's what you're supposed to do? Under the Constitution of St. Christopher and Nevis, it is the federal responsibility for security on the island of Nevis. So who he expect to pay the police? Who he expect to pay the army when it is a federal responsibility? Can I or anybody in Nevis give instructions to the army, give instructions to the police? If he tell the police go left in Nevis, as the premier representative of the people of Nevis, I cannot tell him to go right, because he is the Minister of National Security. National security is a federal responsibility. So if it is a federal responsibility, why come to the nation to say you pay for the police? Well, who's supposed to pay for them? Who? And even though it is a federal responsibility. I would invite the people of Nevis to look at the record. And I'm going to include NRP now because I'm going to give them some credit. Because under Joseph Parry, under Van Samry, and under Mark Brantley now as Premier, we have supported the police in Nevis from the NIA budget. Even though we have no Ministry of National Security. Ask the police in Nevis, the vehicles, sometimes pickups. Ask the army that he's talking about. They're housed over in Fountain. They used to be housed in Fountain. I'm not even sure if they're still in Fountain. But they were in Fountain at the community center there. Our community center. When I see the bill sometimes for the food, NIA is paying that. Look at the police stations that have been built. The one in Gingerland Police Station. The one in Cotton Ground. Look at the barracks in Bath. The barracks over in Butlers. Look at the brand new Newcastle Police and Fire Station. Investments by the Nevis Island Administration. Mark you, we have no responsibility for security. None. Look at the CCTV command center in town, built by the Nevis Island Administration. So when I hear, just like the man in the magistrate's court say, me to support my children. If it is your responsibility legally, why now do you raise that red herring to talk about you pay for police? Well, who's supposed to pay for them? Who? This is the type of nonsense that passes for debate in the country when you have no substantive answer to the people of Nevis through me saying we want what belongs to us. Simple. We could live good. But send what belongs to the people of Nevis. Send that and let the people of Nevis decide what is done with it. That is the concern I have. As I listen to this clip, the gentleman said that he's paying for PAP, the Poverty Alleviation Program in Nevis. I wonder if the people of Nevis know that the Premier of Nevis and the members of the Nevis government, all of whom are elected by the people of Nevis and represent constituents, that not one of us can put a single soul on the PAP. Not one. No matter how much members in our communities are in need, not one of us has the authority or the power to put one little grandmother, one single mother, one unemployed youth on the PAP. The PAP is controlled in St. Kitts through sustainable development or however they control it over there. And it is decided upon on purely a political basis over there. Not even the members in the federal cabinet were able to get people put on the PAP because everything had to go through Timothy Harris. So I ask the question this way. If I, as the Premier of Nevis and no member of the NIA could put anybody on the PAP, then you want us to pay for it? The PAP is intended to be a national program, and therefore the budget for it was produced nationally. So what again is the argument there about PAP? STEP. Let us talk about STEP. I, as the Premier of Nevis, and no member of my cabinet in Nevis could put one worker on STEP. You know how many people call me every day? To get anybody on STEP, we have to write to St. Kitts and say, oh, we have these 3 youngsters, we have these 6 youngsters, we like them put on STEP. Then you get back and say, no, nobody's been added. Mind you, nobody added in Nevis, but they added in St. Kitts all the time. They tell us the program is closed off, no new additions, but in St. Kitts the roll keeps growing. The STEP numbers in Nevis have remained at about 300 now for the past few years. Some people drop off, some people come on, but 300 or thereabouts. over the past several years. Ask them what the numbers are on St. Kitts. The numbers before some were transferred to the public service were almost 3,000. And that is after they removed about 1,500 and put them on the Parks and Beaches program. Same step, but a different name. Because that way they could fool our people and say, oh, the numbers are coming down. The numbers didn't come down. You just took off a set of them and give them a different title. So, we have about 300 workers in Nevis. Out of a total, when you add the step and Parks and Beaches, of 2,700 plus about 1,500, 4,200 or thereabouts. You realize we're back to the 7% again. Just how they want to give us 7% of the CBI money is the 7% of the step workers we have in Nevis too. That has been our reality, and I must continue to accept that. The people of Nevis must continue to accept that. Let's talk about the peace program. The peace program was an initiative of national security. And you remember I said to you, constitutional national security is the responsibility of the federal government. The peace program, the last number I saw, I nearly fall off my chair, because crime is down, violent crime is down, but the numbers on the peace program keeps growing. A couple of weeks ago I saw a number there, it was over 1,200 individuals were now on this peace program. 1,200! You all know how much in Nevis? Do you all know how many of those are in Nevis? The last time I checked, 70. 70. Out of over 1,200. You hear me? 70 out of over 1,200 on this peace program. And when I speak to the youngsters, they will tell you bluntly that they've applied for loans at Development Bank, they've applied for the assistance through this program. Many of them on Nevis can't get through. They can't get through. While their counterparts in St. Kitts are getting through. Do we really want to have this conversation? Because I am willing to have it. I am willing to have it. It is the same youngsters on the peace program that are now coming over want to have secret meetings with. You think anything in Nevis can happen? And we in the Nevis government don't know what is happening? Want to have meetings with because they want to now politicize the program and tell them they must vote in a particular way in Nevis, against the CCM in Nevis. And so that is what they're seeking to do. But I am appealing to our youngsters and say to them, listen, we support the peace program 100%. We will stand with you because we have seen that when opportunities are provided for our youth, for a different life, that everybody wants a better life, and we're prepared to work with them as we are prepared to work with everybody else in the community. But don't come and say you're paying for the peace program in Nevis when you know it's 70 people in Nevis out of over 1,200. Now I have said, oh, you're paying for the economic costs of our students at UE. As far as I know, that has always been the case. Again, because the federal government is what has the arrangement with the University of the West Indies. But such as the costs, ladies and gentlemen, I don't even know why the former Prime Minister is going to bring that up. Because the cost is minimal as to what is paid for the students from Nevis. We have already done the calculations in Nevis. It's roughly about $200,000 or thereabouts. And you know what? I have said, and I will say so again here publicly tonight, you don't have to worry about the PAP program in Nevis. You don't have to worry about the STEP program in Nevis. You don't have to worry about our students' economic costs at UE being paid, if you're able to send us the money that we are entitled to. Simple proposition. Give us our money and allow us to design our own programs. We could have a peace program in Nevis to assist our youths in Nevis. I'm sure Eric Evelyn, through social services, could do a wonderful job. And we will assure you, the people of Nevis, we won't run the money through any agency like Development Bank, so we lose track of it and lose sight of what is happening. No, we will run it in a transparent way, as we are accustomed to do on this island. STEP, if we had a program in Nevis that we in the NIA were able to manage, we could be able to put people on, let people graduate and go on to permanent jobs, as the case may be. Our students going off to UWI, we would be able to do that as well. Just recently, they stopped the economic costs for students who are studying certain subject areas. And many have called and said it has created great hardship for them. Students are doing law and medicine and different subjects. The federal government stopped the economic costs. We in the NIA have already taken the decision that we will have to find a way to step into the breach to help our young people. But I ask the question, ladies and gentlemen, we could have our own programs if we got our money. We could do that. You cannot be withholding the money that the people of Nevis are entitled to, and then seek to say that you're paying for STEP and you're paying for this. But give us our money and let us pay for it. Simple. And I will tell you in a subsequent discussions, because I said I only heard the clip on the way here, I will bring to you the exact amount that is being spent on STEP. Economic costs for our students. Peace program, to the extent that we can get some information, because that program is shrouded in mystery. But I'll get the numbers. And when I bring the numbers for PAP, Peace, STEP, and economic costs, you will find out that those numbers don't even come to $10 million a year. Not even that. They don't come anywhere close to $10 million a year. And when you reflect with me for the moment that in 2021, the Citizenship by Investment Program earned $588 million, out of which the people of Nevis got 45. It means, therefore, that had we got our 25%, we would have got $145 million. That is what we were entitled to. Instead, we got 45. You see where I'm going with this? Because we could have easily paid for our version of STEP, our version of the Peace Program, easily supported our students overseas, easily paid for PAP, and ensured that the people of Nevis benefited from these programs if we had the money to do so. We could have out of that $145 million have more people working in the training program and have a real training program, STEP. Not what we have now, because we claim we're going to make it better than what was there before, and we have done no such thing. No such thing. I used to argue about it all the time in the cabinet. No such thing, no improvement. Same program, just give it a different name. It was PEP, now it's STEP. And the people of Nevis are held to the same 300. That's it. Same 300 or thereabouts. But in St. Kitts you have thousands that are on the program. It just seemed to me that if we were able to get the resources to which we're entitled, and that is why we're saying why this fair share issue is so important. And I want the man on the Charlestown and Gingerland and Butler's bus to understand. This is what we are talking about. Because with the resources to which we are entitled, the people of Nevis could do so much more. So much more. I mentioned, for example, that we didn't have to be scrounging around the world as we're doing now, talking about financing for geothermal. People out there now have the electricity prices rising. You know why? There's a war in Ukraine. Oil prices are going up. Russian oil is no longer accessible to many of us. And once oil prices go up, electricity prices go up, electricity prices go up, all other prices follow. Oil prices go up, the price at the pump goes up, the price at the pump goes up, the bus drivers start to make noise, they want more money. The bakery said they got to increase the cost of bread. Everything else rises. Could you imagine if we had geothermal energy and we could say, listen, we don't really matter to us what is happening out there because we have our own independent supply of energy here on the island of Nevis. And also because we have enough to benefit our sister St. Kitts as well. A government with foresight would have said, let us put our resources into this and develop it for the benefit of the country. But no, you see it's in Nevis. And so, we're not developing that. We're not developing that. And we will not give Nevis the resources that it's entitled to so that the NIA could develop it. That is what we are dealing with. We could have finished a lot of these road projects around. People call me every day and say, Mr. Brantley, the road by me need fixing. So many of these projects could have been done. We could have built out the sixth form college that we've been talking about, to have a proper tertiary learning institution here separated from the Charleston Secondary School. We would have finished our hospital, outfitted it, state-of-the-art facility, attracting people from all over the world and ensuring that the people of Nevis had the best quality health care. We could have expanded our airport. We could have paid off our debt. We could have managed the salary increases rather than how we had to do it piece in order to be sure that we could pay. There's so much that we could have done. And as we approach the hurricane season now, starts today, I always reflect that we could have had some money in the bank for a rainy day. And so instead of dealing with the issues, you have a former prime minister who continues to try and mislead people, to openly and flagrantly lie to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. How could you say you're paying for pharmaceuticals and drugs for Nevis? It is not true. It is not true. And if it is that you say you're paying, send back our money to Nevis that we've been paying over every month. $30,000 a month. Send it back for us, please. I don't mind if you send it back and then you could boast all you want that you're paying for the drugs in Nevis. The reality is, it is false. And falsehood after falsehood. As you seek to make yourself out to be some benevolent, generous leader. When in reality, you are withholding from the people of Nevis that to which they are entitled. So I want to put the matter to rest tonight and say to you that so long as I have breath and so long as the Concerned Citizens Movement exists, we will stand up for our people. And we will say to every Tut Mun Saman Bagay that the people of Nevis deserve and demand their fair share. You hear what I tell you? Let me look directly into the camera. We will stand up and say to Tut Mun Saman Bagay that the people of Nevis demand their fair share. And we need somebody who sits in Church Street who understands that he or she is the Prime Minister for the entire country. Not one island, but the entire country. I could say I'm the Premier of Nevis because nobody thinks it's vote for me. That is how our constitution is set up. But when you sit in the chair of Prime Minister, you are Prime Minister for the entire country. And your thinking and your speech must reflect that. You are not being benevolent or generous because you are saying you did something in a part of the country. You are benevolent if you send money to Antigua. That is not your country. You are benevolent if after the hurricanes in St. Lucia you send $1 million. That is not your country. Imagine, if you will, that I am the Prime Minister in Church Street and I say, oh, me build a road down in Sandy Point and I am therefore generous to the people of Sandy Point. Well, Sandy Point people have every reason to tell you that you are and have lost touch with your senses. But because you see, we from this island called Nevis, there seems to be a feeling in some quarters that we are some kind of stepchild, some cousin, that, listen, we give them the scraps, and if they make any noise, we cuss them and tell them they're ungrateful, because they should be grateful for the scraps. Well, I'm tired of scraps. The people of Nevis are tired of scraps. And we will demonstrate very soon how tired we are of scraps. And all who feel that we ought to be satisfied with scraps will be on the outside looking in as we sit at the table of brotherhood eating the same like anybody else. Because as I've always said, when difficulty comes, the people of Nevis are not spared. We are asked to bear the brunt of that difficulty shoulder to shoulder. And therefore, when benefit comes, we ought equally to be able to benefit. As I like to say it, the full fruits of our citizenship should be ours. And from that I will not resile. Now I will put the former Prime Minister to one side, because as I said, I do not make it a habit of dealing with people who have entered the ranks of the irrelevant. He's in the checkout lounge and he will not be coming back. So let me put him to one side now and deal with the more pressing matter that has arisen, because yesterday and the day before, the island was abuzz with news that the Nevis Reformation Party, the junior arm now of the People's Labour Party in Nevis, that they have announced that they will have a launch of their candidates. And that is fine. We expect that they will launch some candidates. But ladies and gentlemen, what has shocked me and shocked most of us, even shocked some in the NRP, is the fact that the NRP launched already 5 candidates for the local election. They launched Janice Hodge as the leader, Dr. Janice Hodge, leader of the NRP, to run in St. James. They launched Dr. Patricia Bartlett, my good CCM cousin, to run in St. John's. The Honorable Cleone Stapleton Simmons is the representative currently of the good people of St. Thomas's, so she will run again. They launched a young woman called J.D. Keynes to run in the great parish of St. Paul's. And they launched a young man called Rohan Isles to be the candidate in St. George. They had a big launch, and said to us these were their 5 candidates for the local election. Now, there's nothing remarkable about that, except that for the last several years, going back to around about 2015, 2016, the NRP has had one major political issue. And that issue, they say, is that no person can do 2 jobs. And therefore, they said that going forward, they will not have the same candidates for local elections and federal elections. They say Mark Brantley, because he represents number 2, St. John's at the local level, and number 9, St. John's and St. Paul's at the federal level, that there is something morally reprehensible about that. They chastise Eric Evelyn because he's representing Gingerland locally and representing it federally. They chastise Alexis Jeffers because he's representing the proud people of St. James locally and St. James and St. Thomas's federally. They say it should not happen. And therefore, when they launch their candidates at the local level, all of Nevis expected that we would hear then about the new candidates that they would bring at the federal level. In fact, they went so far that they changed their constitution. To show their seriousness and their commitment to stopping what they say was immoral. Same candidate running in both. They went on to say you shouldn't get toupee. You shouldn't collect paying St. Kitts and paying Nevis, notwithstanding you have 2 jobs. You can't do 2 jobs. And I'm sure all of you heard, every single member of the NRP. My good cousin, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, my good CCM cousin. She come here to Van Radio on Tuesdays, and she's always talking about her good cousin getting 2 salary. It is wrong, it is wrong, it is wrong. And so you could imagine my shock and awe when I am to hear that the 3 of the candidates already declared for the local election for the NRP are the same 3 who are going to run now federally. You hear what I tell you? 3 of the 5 that have already declared are going to be the same 3 to run federally. Dr. Janice Hodge, who has already declared locally for St. James, she's the candidate. Well, she will now be the candidate federally as well. My good CCM cousin, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, she was declared as a candidate for St. John's locally. Well, guess what? She will now be the federal candidate as well. And young Rohan Isles, who was declared as a sacrificial lamb to run in Gingerland, locally, he will now be the sacrificial lamb federally as well. And you ask yourself the question, well, after all this set of talk and cussing and abusing and carrying on, NRP changed their mind? NRP now no longer considers that to be immoral, improper, illegitimate. It can't happen. It shouldn't happen. You see, I told people a long time ago, NRP set a trap for CCM, NRP thought when they start this talk about only running in one election, you can't run in both, that CCM would have been convinced or pressured to do the same. And here what their thinking was, if you can get rid of the sheriff from one of them race there, if you can get rid of Alexis from one of them race there, if you can get rid of the mayor of Handys Road, Eric Evelyn, from one of those races, it makes our chances better. That's what they were thinking. But the CCM has had a consistent position as a party under the leadership of Vance Emery, of blessed memory. We always ran the best candidates that we had. Vance ran and represented Gingerland all the 30 whatever years he had. He was representative of the people of Gingerland locally and federally. Malcolm Gishard of blessed memory represented the people of St. John's locally and the people of number 9 St. John's and St. Paul's federally. Gene Harris tried in number 11 but was not successful. And then let's look at the NRP. Dr. the Honorable Right Excellent Sir Simeon Daniel, our national hero. He was the Premier of Nevis and he was also Minister of Finance in St. Kitts. Ivor Algernon Stevens was Minister in Nevis and Minister in St. Kitts. Ural Swanston served in Nevis, he served in St. Kitts. I never heard the argument that they couldn't do 2 jobs. As far as I know, they represented the people of Nevis. And then thereafter, Joseph Parry served in Nevis, he served in St. Kitts. And when I first ran in 2007, in a by-election occasioned by the tragic death of Brother Malcolm, you know who I ran against for a federal seat? You know who I ran against for a federal seat? Hensley Daniel, who was then the Deputy Premier of Nevis. So Hensley had a seat, St. John's, and was the Deputy Premier employed to the people of Nevis in the NIA led by Joseph Parry. And Hensley ran against me for a federal seat. Well, I beat him by 30 votes in 2007. In 2010, there was another federal election. Hensley Daniel ran again. Still Deputy Premier. He was trying to get into the federal house too. He lost again. The people rejected him. Let us look at Patrice Nisbet. Patrice was the federal representative for the people of number 11. And every local election, he ran in St. James and lost. Roberto Hector was the elected representative of the people of St. Paul's. But he still came up and tried to win in a federal election. He wanted to go St. Kitts too. The difference has been that the people of Nevis have consistently and overwhelmingly rejected the NRP. So they then come up now with this talk, this plan, this strategy, this smartness. Oh, it's wrong to run in both, and we will not allow it, and so we will fix our constitution to ensure that this cannot happen. Well, as leader of CCM, I tell him, oh, that's what you want to do? Well, go ahead and do it. But you will not tell CCM what CCM should do. We remain true to the ideals of this party, of Malcolm and Vance, because that is what they did and that is what we have continued to do and to hold fast to. And the people of Nevis time and time again have rewarded the Concerned Citizens movement because they see in us the type of representation that they want, locally and federally. So the NRP now set the trap for CCM, hoping that they could galvanize public opinion about double salary and 2 jobs and one man can't do 2 jobs. And now the trap fly. You know who get catching it? The same NRP. So I listened to my good CCM cousin Pat last night, Dr. Bartlett, trying to explain. Well, how you could explain what is inexplicable? The best thing for you to do to say is, well, listen, we tried to fool the people of Nevis, we failed, and so we're sorry. That's the best thing for you to do. You cannot explain the inexplicable. Because suddenly now, oh, we didn't have enough time to get candidates. Nobody expected a federal election. That is why we have to run the same people, because we didn't have enough time. Then she said something I thought was quite telling. She said that they didn't have people who were willing and able. I want to focus on the and able part. You know why? Because we live in Nevis and we know that they had other names that had come forward. We know that Virgil Brown was to run over there in number 11. A young lady in town, I can't remember her name, first name, but Miss Clark, Gavincia Clark, was to run in number 9. And another young lady called Seba Jones was to run in number 10. So when they say that nobody was willing, that isn't true. Now, if she's saying that they weren't able, I can't speak to that. Those are her words, not mine. But certainly it is not true to say that they didn't have people who were willing. You see, the NRP took a decision and they chose to run the same 3 that had already declared that they will be running in local. Simple. And I heard my good cousin, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, say last night that if we have to change the constitution, well, we'll have to change it. We're doing one election at a time. And I said, well, look at these people here. For years they bash me. For years they bash CCM. And then to hear my good up CCM cousin Pat say that if she were to get into the cabinet, she will say she don't want no portfolio. Well, if you don't want no portfolio, where you go? Is portfolio that you could help people with? When you have a portfolio in agriculture, in fisheries, in health, in whatever, that's where you could bring people, find jobs for people, help people. Where you tell number 9 people, good people of St. John's and St. Paul's, they must vote for you to send you Sinkis so you don't have a portfolio. Well, what am I sending you for? What are they sending you for? then I would have thought that because they have all this problem, they say, with people getting to pay for 2 jobs, that my good cousin would have said that she will not accept any payment. No, she didn't say that. She said she's going to take the money, but she's going to give the money to 20 families. And I thought that was remarkable, because that's exactly what I do. That's exactly what we all do. I have never seen a penny of salary. Where are I going to see it? My job is to help people in the community. That's what I do. So you realize now that the moral approbation is no longer about getting 2 salaries. Now it seems like it's what you do with the salary when you get it. And more we are seeing the dishonesty, the hypocrisy, that you can't even be straight with people. And I am going to tell the tale, let me take a couple of minutes. You know why Dr. Janice Hodge is running? Let me tell you, since I am pretending and shoo-shooing and don't want to address. Dr. Janice Hodge is running in number 11 because she did not want Cleone Stapleton Simmons to run. The Honorable Cleone Stapleton Simmons. Because my source in the meeting said after Cleone realized that they wanted to change now, go against their very constitution and against the principles that they've espoused all these years, the criticisms that they've leveled at the CCM. They said, Cleone put up she hand and said, as the elected representative of the people of St. Thomas's, I want to run federally. And that is the point at which Dr. Hodge, Janice Hodge, jump up and say, I will run, I will run. You know why? Because they do not want the Honorable Cleone Stapleton Simmons to have any prominence in this NRP. They don't want it. And she knows it. I'm not saying anything. I'm not an advocate for her. I'm not her friend. But the Honorable Cleone Stapleton Simmons knows it. That move by Janice Hodge was not designed to do anything for the people of number 11. It was designed for one thing and one thing only. Keep out Cleone. Keep out Cleone. Because God forbid that Cleone were to get in there and do well. Keep out Cleone. You remember Cleone had challenged for leadership of the party. And they don't want that because the party is now a franchise arrangement, I wonder if NRP people really understand what is going on inside the NRP. It is now a franchise arrangement. It is all about money. You all think that the person who says leader of NRP is the real leader of NRP? You know it's not so. The person was installed for a particular purpose, and it has nothing to do with the benefit of the people of Nevis. The election is starting, our campaign going to be sweet, because we're going to get into these things. And I want to say that I empathize with the Honorable Cleone Stapleton Simmons. She's not of the same party as me, but in my interactions with her one-on-one, I have found her to be somebody that I can talk to. And this running over there has everything to do with her. But once the floodgates were open, and the leaders say, I'm going to break the constitution of NRP and break the rule, and I don't declare for St. James, but I'm going to run federally too, then that's where the floodgates open. And that's how the young lady in town get Kinney Cat. The other young lady up in Hanley's Road, they get Kinney Cat. And suddenly, you know what bothers me about Gingerland so much? I don't hold any brief for Seba Jones. She's not my friend either. She's somebody I know. But at least Seba is from Gingerland. As long as I've known her, I know how to be. Sidamo and the entire family down Hanley's Road. Live there all their days. I know they have some connections with Sinkits, but as far as I know them, they're Hanley's Road Gingerland people. And she get Kinney Cat for somebody from St. Thomas's who has no connection whatsoever to Gingerland, who don't declare that he'll be running up there in the local. The young lady here in town get Kinney Cat for a CCM supporter. CCM, blue and true, who don't declare that she running for St. John's. And I'm saying to myself, at what point do the people of Nevis just say, listen, you all are truly not yet ready? I keep saying that we're living in serious times, and serious times demand serious attention from serious people. And if you're not serious, don't waste our time, because the people of Nevis are looking for serious leadership. Stable, steady. We need a steady hand at the wheel. A hand that people can trust. That is what we are seeking for in Nevis. And if you're not ready for prime time, then leave it alone. You can't be going to people asking for their support and then tell them if you get the opportunity to help them, you're going to say you don't want any portfolio. Yeah, where you be? A painting? A potted plant? You come just to look pretty and to sit down and make no contribution? People send us to government to better their lives, to serve them. So if you're ready, say, if I get the chance, me don't want that. I don't want to serve you. No. No. I don't want no portfolio. Then why are you coming? Why are you coming? Because it means you're not serious and you're not ready yet to grapple with the serious issues that the country confronts. Ladies and gentlemen, an election is coming. When I heard that the former Prime Minister would be speaking today, I really had no interest in what the rest of the kangaroo cabinet said. But when I heard he was speaking today, I said, well, I hope he comes to announce the date. Because really and truly, that's the only thing people are interested in right now. People are interested in the date. I believe the people of Nevis have already decided what they're going to do, and they want the date. That's really it. The people in Sinkits equally have decided what they want to do, and they're looking for the date. So, I'm asking people out there, don't send me any more clips of the former Prime Minister of St. Christopher and Nevis, Dr. Timothy Sylvester Harris, unless it's a clip where he says the election date is such and such and the nomination date is such and such. Because that's the only thing I want to hear from him. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 1/4 the hour. This is On the Mark. And I'm going to take some calls now if there's anybody out there who's interested in talking to us. If not, we will continue this soliloquy for another 45 minutes. But the phone's already ringing, so let's go. Good evening, you're On the Mark.
Miss Sheriff, good night.
Good night to you, my dear. How are you?
Well, I'm giving God a big thanks. Another big blue machine roll out now.
Yes.
So come on out and listen to the burning issues. Proverbs 24, verse 15, 16, and 17. Lay not wait, O wicked man, against the dwelling of the righteous. Spoil not his resting place. For a just man falleth 7 times, and rise up again, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. Rejoice not when thy enemies falleth, and let not thine heart be glad when he stumbleth. May God continue to bless all of us. Mr. Sheriff, good night. Bye.
Thank you very much, and God bless you. And you know what I like about social media and phones and all that? Some people see me on my phone. I just got some message here. There's 71 persons on the peace program in Nevis. There are over 1,200 persons on Sinkits. 71 in Nevis. No new names have been added to that program in Nevis since August 2021. They say the process is closed. We know it's not true, because in Sinkits they keep adding people. Of the 71 persons on the program in Nevis, 14 of them are supervisors. They get $750 per week. The remaining fellas receive $400 per week. No social security deductions are being made. So, it means therefore they don't have any comfort of social security. Access to loans that have been put at Development Bank for them, the fellows in Nevis not even getting a letter to say thank you, your application is on file. Tools, they can't get tools, whereas the counterparts in Sinkits get whatever they want when they want it. People up here still owed money, can't get paid on time. People who are servicing tools and things can't get their pay. Every week, agitation is being made, nothing is happening. So the program is a good program, but the program has been politicized. And I want people to understand that 1,200 plus 71 in Nevis, and not one person added in Nevis since August 2021, nearly a full year. They said the process is closed, but every week in Sinkits the numbers go up. Talk about you love Nevis, and you're generous to Nevis. These are the facts. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening to you.
How are you, brother?
I'm good, I'm good.
I'm here, I'm listening to you, and I'm kind of worried, I'm kind of baffled when you speak about the former Prime Minister.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought you were speaking about Dr. Douglas.
Yes.
Because I'm looking under the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
What section could I look at to find Dr. Timothy Sylvester Harris as the former Prime Minister? I would like you to give me the section of the Constitution, because that is the supreme law of the land, and that is what we are guided by.
Okay, so the Constitution, Carl, I don't have a copy in front of me, but the Constitution requires that for anybody to have the title of Prime Minister, there's a requirement. You know what the requirement is?
Yeah.
You know what the requirement is?
Yeah, I guess the party you also have a cabinet.
No.
Yep.
No. The requirement for any person to be Prime Minister of the country is that they must have the support of the majority of elected members of the Parliament. That's the requirement.
Now, that speaks to after an election. Let us face it with a vote of no confidence.
Yes.
Okay? Where you can table a vote of no confidence. It says that if a vote of no confidence is passed, the Prime Minister have 3 days in which to resign or call election.
Yes.
Now, if a vote of confidence is not passed, and the Prime Minister dissolves Parliament, is it legal or illegal?
No, I'm not talking about legality or illegality, you know. I'm referring to him as the outgoing Prime Minister because...
No.
Caller. I'm sorry, the former. Forgive me. I'm referring to him as the former Prime Minister because that is how I see him. He's the former Prime Minister because he has no legitimacy. He has no support in the Parliament. None whatsoever.
Ma'am, if you know the Constitution...
Yes.
If you know the Constitution... I don't have a Constitution in front of me.
Yes.
But I sit down with Dr. Brown back in 2004, who is the best constitutional expert in St. Kitts. And I am saying to you, this is the voice of UNEP speaking, eh?
The voice of who?
The voice of UNEP.
UNEP?
The National Empowerment Party.
Okay. I didn't know UNEP still exists.
It still exists. That is why we are here. Still.
Okay.
And I am saying to you, is that if the Prime Minister are elected by the majority of the representatives who support after the election, the majority of the elected representatives, and you have a vote of no confidence against the Prime Minister, and it comes against the Prime Minister, you have to call an election in 3 days' time or resign. Now, if you put in a vote of no confidence and he resigns, he are still the Prime Minister, whether he carries for 90 days or for 21 days. And I am saying it is disrespectful because you are leader of Nevis.
Caller, I'm the leader of Nevis. You know why? Because I have and command the support of a majority of elected members in the Nevis Island administration.
That is after an election you command
I command it still.
Can the elected representative in Nevis bring a vote of no confidence against you?
Absolutely they can.
And if they bring a vote of no confidence and you get dissolve Parliament, would you still be the Prime Minister, the Premier?
I would refer to myself as the former Premier because I have no longer a mandate.
Mark, you cannot be former.
Caller. I have taken your point. I note your point.
Okay, I need to give you some other points that I have.
Okay, go ahead with the other points.
The second thing that I want to ask you is that what are your plans for a successor and how many terms do you expect to continue running again? You could ask him out, you could answer him after I get off the air.
Okay.
That's number 2. Number 3.
And you're asking this question on behalf of UNEP, you say?
No, I'm not. I'm a part of UNEP. I am a part of UNEP. So this is the voice of UNEP that is speaking. This is my choice of words. I am a part of UNEP, so this is the voice of UNEP. I'm not asking them on behalf of, I'm asking them, this is the voice of UNEP. No, number 2.
Number 3, I think it is.
No, number 3. The first one was Prime Minister and Elizabeth. The second one was the succession plan. Number 3, now, let's work out that for some sake that Labour got 8 seats and they decide not to join with anyone from Nevis because they have enough to form a government. What is your plan? Let's work out that you're not getting the SIDF money. What is your plan for taking Nevis forward in an economic standpoint? I haven't heard that from no, but everybody's speaking about this CBI money. Yes, the CBI money, I agree that you should get the share. I have no problem with that, but I'm saying let's go for let's go and get that. Number 4, let us look at parliamentarians running in both elections. Do you firmly believe, because we speak a lot about moral, and do you morally believe that anyone should be served as a federal minister and a local minister? Do you firmly I'm not speaking about what the Constitution says now, because the Constitution gives me permission to, but do you firmly believe it? Because I am one who believes that the premier of, I am one who believes there is just human third in our Constitution. Because it's saying we have a local government, maybe we should have a local government, and saying we have a federal government that will for both.
Okay,
so
caller, that's the questions, because you're taking up quite a bit of time. So is that the last question?
Let me give you the last one. I'm going to finish now. I heard you speak a lot about Malcolm Richard and Van Amy, that is not what they wanted for the party. But you forget that there were other founders of the party, and were main founders before CCM, before Van Amy, such as the Carl Jeffers, the Franklin Brand, the Trevor Chapman, and the other guys who run the AD, which they think was really suicidal. I mean, are these people left out? Because they were the real founder of the party, and I don't hear you speak nothing about them.
Okay, caller. Well, thank you very much for your contribution.
Have a nice day.
Thank you, caller. You've asked quite a few questions. As to the last question about who were founding members of the party, I would have referenced Vance and Malcolm for a specific reason, to show that the party has, since they were the candidates, had a particular stance in relation to running local and federal. That has always been the position. Now, you started out by suggesting to me that I ought not to refer to Timothy Harris as the former Prime Minister. I do so because, in my opinion, you must have a continuing mandate from the elected majority, which he does not have. He doesn't. There are 3 people out of 11 that support Timothy. I'm not even sure about Eugene, to be honest. I am not sure that Eugene supports. But he has the honorable representative from number 3 and himself supporting him. That's it. Because the others who are there, as you know, appointed, they can't support otherwise. The Constitution doesn't give them that right, because nobody voted for them. So really and truly, he showed 2, and maybe Eugene. 8 people do not support. So when I speak, I'm speaking in the context of what I consider to be legitimacy. You asked about me. I'm legitimate because I'm standing here tonight. I'm sitting here tonight. I'm sorry. I have the support, the ongoing support of the elected majority. You bring in morality to the end of your argument to say that is it morally appropriate for the same person to run? You're not dealing with the Constitution, you say. But is it morally appropriate for a man who has lost the majority to be making decisions? Some may have far-reaching consequences for you and I, in circumstances where he only dissolved the House to avoid the consequences of the motion of no confidence. You know it, I know it, and everybody else knows it. You ask about how long I will be here. That will be a matter for the party to determine. We're going to go into convention later this year, we hope, and the party will make those kinds of decisions. As you know, the CCM is a big blue machine with a big blue tent, and we are transparent and open in how we do things. I can't remember what else you asked about. I think you asked what are our plans. I believe if you continue to listen to our campaign, you will hear what our plans are. But I take umbrage, caller, at people who keep saying to Nivisions, you must develop some plan which is an alternative to CBI, when Sinkits' only plan is CBI. At least in Nevis you see us trying with a movie business. You see us now re-emphasizing agriculture. You see us incentivizing small business. But we are also saying that we must get our share of the citizenship by investment proceeds. I likened it again, and people are going to get tired of me saying it. 2 brothers own a cow. One brother milking the cow every morning, selling the milk. And when the other brother say, but I'm not getting my share of the money, you tell him, boy, go find your own source of money. What you doing to develop yourself? But what the first brother is doing is milking our cow to develop itself. So I think it's a spurious argument, because people are constantly asking Nevis, well, Nevis, what you're going to do? What you're going to do as an excuse, it seems, to deny the people of Nevis what rightfully belongs to them. And that is why we're standing here, caller. And so if I have offended you by referring to Dr. Harris as the former Prime Minister, I can't do anything about that. If you think I'm premature in my announcement, well, all right, I will accept that. In less than 90 days, however, you'll call back and tell me, Mark, you were right. He is, in fact, the former Prime Minister. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yeah, Mark, good evening. This is Carlton.
Good evening to you, brother.
Notice who the gentleman say he sat down with? Dr. Brown, but Dr. Brown still mourning the loss of Amri. So maybe he didn't give him instruction the right way. Notice the channel he's going. I was out on my balcony, you know, I had to come inside. I wish they could have let me listen you till you're done. I know him. He's a joker. We get along good, but he is a joker. Only could listen to Dr. Brown and a guy down in the circus named Walford. They don't have no use for Nevis. They only talk from the mouth. Let's move on. I want to thank you and Sean Richards very much to make the move you all make at this time, even though many have said it was very late. I don't listen to Michael Powell. I don't listen to Patches. I don't listen to the former Prime Minister. But somebody came to the store today and showed me a picture with him doing some kind of talk somewhere, maybe cabinet or something. I took him for a friend of mine named Marty. Marty is only 185 pounds. But the former Prime Minister, 300 and something. So I thought it was Marty. Then when I look good again, he tell me, well, it's Timothy Harris. That's the amount of weight that he has lost. Let me tell you something, Mark. Timothy Harris is finished. But for the first time, I got the faith. And if anybody join in a government with you all, and in 30 days, 40 days, they can go to Parliament and draft the correct legislation to give Nevis the rightful share. I turning them like I was never backing them. Me, Carlton. Tomorrow morning, I want the people to know they must listen to me because I'll be taking on Michael Powell and Patches Liber on your behalf. Somebody send me a clip today. Patches saying, you get $50,000. You could have given 50 people in Nevis $1,000 each. But Michael Powell, 83 years, he get 8,000 plus pension plus social security. I wonder if he never get double too. But Patches didn't tell them that you refused to take a salary in Nevis nearly 2 years or around 2 years.
20 months.
20 months.
20 months.
Good. So this is my problem with politics in St. Kitts Nevis. Why, even though we hate a man, we can't speak the good about him? You can't, you should. Because that is why a woman sent $700 for me today for my program. Because she told me, you seem to be very fair. I don't know you. But I send the money for you, go pick it up. So tomorrow, I'm going to take on Patches and I'm going to take on Michael Powell. I go on the coat on my balcony, go drink my coffee.
All right, my friend. Enjoy your coffee and thank you for tuning in and thank you for your calls.
Enjoy your coffee.
It is 9:30 and we're taking your calls at 869-469-1616 and 1700. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, yes. Good night, Mr. Mark. Good night.
Good evening.
Yes. Mr. DuPont, you train them in 1, 2. You're crazy.
All right, caller, this is not, for you to respond to Mr. DuPont necessarily. If you have a point to make, then make the point. But please, let's move away from the attacks because that is not what we seek to do on the show. So call back in, make your point, whatever it may be, but don't get into the attacks because we won't allow that. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Mark Brantley.
Good evening to you, brother.
Yeah. I want to say something. People must learn to be honest. Carlo said on this program here tonight, and he mentioned Walford Atherton and Dr. Brown, but he forget Mr. Cookie Warner. All three of them, including he, formed a political party, and he backed out and said that the three of them use up his money. So let me clear up that one there. Now, Mr. Mark Brantley, I have a question for you.
Sure, go ahead.
When you are showing the Charlestown Accord on the courthouse step,
Yes.
that was a shake hand and a smile agreement. Why didn't you say, well, okay, let us take this agreement to cabinet and then we will have it passed in parliament as a constitutional bill? Why you didn't do that? But after 6, going on 7 years now, you come on and say that Nevis ain't getting the full share, according to what agreement was made on the courthouse step.
But can I ask you something?
Hold on,
Yeah,
and the
go ahead.
courthouse step is not law. If me and you make an agreement on something and I break the contract, take me to the court.
Yes.
Because it is written on paper and the constitution is paper. Come now.
So let me ask you something.
Yes.
Would you agree that the same document signed on the courthouse steps gave...
Hold on, let me hang up here because I want to hear you clear on the radio. Let me hang up.
Okay. The question that I have to ask is that, would you agree that the same document that you now say is only paper, signed on the courthouse steps, was the basis on which Timothy Harris became Prime Minister? It was the basis on which the CCM participated. Let me remind you that in 2015, CCM won 2 seats. PAM won 4. 2 and 4 is 6. We could have formed the government. Timothy Harris won 1 seat. He was given the prime ministership on the basis of the same piece of paper. So how it is that people keep saying, why Nevis didn't take this and make it law in the parliament, when the man who signed it and became prime minister on the back of the same piece of paper could have easily honored it? So I understand the argument, you know, why this didn't become law. But if the very people who signed the document, the very people who said that this was their sworn commitment to each other and to the people of the country, so what do you mean to say? That they didn't mean it? Because it has to be that that is what you're saying. That they lack the necessary integrity and character, and so we ought to have gone into the parliament to put it beyond doubt. Now, I could have understood that argument, caller, if a new government had come in, and that new government said, well, we didn't sign anything, so we don't feel bound by it. I believe your argument would have been unassailable. But it's the same man who became prime minister from that piece of paper as you describe it. It's the same man who now says the piece of paper is no good. You can't have it both ways, caller. We didn't go into parliament and pass any law to make Timothy Harris prime minister. It was on the strength of agreement made. So how come some agreements we say that is fine and others we say, oh, you should have done this and you should have done that? At what point do we hold those who signed and agreed before God and man accountable for their lack of integrity and their lack of character? That is what we must look at. So I hear you, I hear everything you say. But I don't believe that those arguments stand up to scrutiny, because they deny the fact that the very people who benefited from that piece of paper are the very people now who are saying it is only a piece of paper that can be disregarded. Can't have it both ways. 25 minutes to the hour of 10 o'clock. We're going to take some more calls. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello?
Good evening, sir. Mr. Premier Mark Brantley, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Good evening to you.
Yeah, good evening. So I'm just going to get straight to it.
Please do.
I was listening to the Prime Minister for about 10 minutes making some very strong comments as pertaining to what he has been given into Nevis about the PAP and the STEP program and paying for this and paying for that, right? So he also spoke about the increase in funds that you, Mr. Brantley, has written to him in saying that Nevis needs, right? So my question to you, Mr. Brantley, and I'm gonna stay on the line because I want to talk to you about this a little bit, is what is the NIA paying for in Nevis as pertaining to what Mr. Timothy Harris? Because I'm not gonna go with the Prime Minister and say he's being truthful or whatever, but I want to know what the Prime Minister said in that clip. Is it true or is it false?
You listen to the show from the start, or you just tune in?
No, I'm just tuning in.
Okay,
Sorry.
well, you missed the entire start of the show because I addressed that. So
okay, well, I'm here now.
Well, I know you're here now, but we also out limited time, so I'm just going to be very quick because you can go and listen to the show tomorrow and get all your answers because we started the show. So your lateness shouldn't cause us to rehash things that we've hashed out already.
But Mr. Brantley,
caller,
I am a registered voter.
Caller,
so I would like to get your on it.
Caller, if you are late in class, you expect the teacher to go over the lesson for you?
No, but I am, but what?
I am saying to you,
I am a registered voter,
and that is fine. That doesn't tell you should be late.
No,
I am saying to you, caller,
about what is going on here.
Caller, I am saying to you that I do not have the time now to rehash what was dealt with at length earlier in the show. You can listen to the show tomorrow and get those answers.
Okay, well,
however, caller, calm down. However, I can say to you that what was said today was not true. It was intended to mislead. For example, it was said that pharmaceuticals, drugs are being purchased by St. Kitts for Nevis. That is not true. We pay for our own drugs.
Okay.
It is just that we pay through St. Kitts. And in fact, since 2020, 2021, we've been paying something like $30,000 a month. All right?
Okay. All
we
right.
talked about PAP and STEP and the Peace Program. Those are federal programs. And those are paid for from by St. Kitts because they're controlled from in St. Kitts. Not a soul in Nevis can put somebody on PAP or PEP or STEP or the Peace Program. In fact, I just got a note here which said that nobody has gone onto the PAP since 2020 in Nevis. That's the last time anybody was added. And the last time anybody was added to the Peace Program in Nevis was August of 2021. Since then, hundreds have been added in St. Kitts, but they tell Nevis the program is closed.
So the Prime Minister came on national social media and he lied to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis then?
Well, I have said that I will provide the information because I like to document things. So again, had you tuned in earlier, you would have heard all that I said. And that is why I'm saying I don't have the time now to rehash it.
The Prime Minister wasn't being true then. That's what you said.
I'm sorry?
A couple minutes. Right.
I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you, caller.
No. You said prior to briefing me, you were saying that the Prime Minister wasn't being truthful with what he was saying.
But I don't hold any water in my mouth to say that.
Okay, okay, no problem. Well, I just wanted to know that.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
All right. So listen to the show tomorrow. You get all the answers. 20 minutes to the hour.
All right.
We're gonna take some calls here. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello.
Mr. Brantley, how you doing, man?
I'm good. You're on the air.
Okay, so I have just two questions for you. The first question that I have for you is that you guys formed the Unity Party.
Unity government. There was no Unity Party.
Yeah. Or Unity government, yes.
Yes.
And you guys selected the Prime Minister.
Yes.
To be Dr. Timothy Harris.
Yes.
Now, my thing is, based on his former party would have been the Labour Party. And you guys would have known the disagreements that he would have had with the former Prime Minister, right? And you guys would have known his attitude and his behavior, So why would you guys decide, okay, let's select him, knowing that he does not have or commands the majority? Why would you guys put him in power, knowing that based on his previous attitude, his previous behaviors with the former Prime Minister? Why would you guys put him in power?
But caller, I think that you're making some assumptions. You say we know. How could we know? We were not in office with him. We heard some allegations. We heard some allegations made about him by Dr. Douglas.
Right.
And we heard allegations made by him towards Dr. Douglas. So to say that we knew is not really accurate, because we had never had any government or had any relationship with Timothy Harris. Timothy Harris would have presented himself to us and said to us that he wanted a better way for our country.
I think that is a fighting battle. I mean, you fought to get Dr. Douglas out.
Yes.
And his cahoots. And now you're fighting again now to get Dr. Timothy Harris out.
Yes.
That's what it is. And it's just an ever-going battle.
I don't know about ever-going in a caller.
Stable government.
I don't know about ever-going battle. If something is wrong, and it shouldn't be said that we're fighting to get him out, we sought for 7 long years to work with him. We sought compromise. We sought meetings. We sought discussions. We wrote letters.
Right.
We engaged. It is only when you get to a point when you realize that there is no further room for engagement that he decided to collapse the government. Not us. He decided to collapse the government. So I hear what you're saying, but the reality is that we had no experience with the gentleman. He projected himself and presented himself as somebody who was a healer, somebody who would bring meaningful change to the country. And we sought to work with that until, of course, we realized that he was not only no different, probably worse than what we had before. So we have made a decision that we will now move on, and the country will make its decision in due course.
Right. And then in respect to the Governor General, I think Sir Tapley Stevens. Now, you guys wrote to him, the majority wrote to him and tried, asked for his removing of the Prime Minister.
Yes.
And he decided or refused in his letter.
Yes.
To not remove. Now I know you guys sought legal advice in reference to that.
Yes.
Right? Now I'm not jumping to assumption, but it looks to me that he's also in cahoots now with Dr. Timothy Harris. Or because he would have been selected by Dr. Timothy Harris to be Governor General. So now who's to say that he is now Governor General, and to remove the Prime Minister now, is going to be ever battling with him as well.
Well, caller, I'm not going to join in ascribing any motives or ill intentions to anyone. What I will say to you is this: the people of this country will speak, and they will speak soon, and their voice is the voice of God. The people will make a decision soon as to who they want in government, and whatever they decide, the country will have to live with. And so whoever the people elect, and whoever can command the support to form a government, the Governor General will have no choice but to swear in those people as the next government, because ultimately it is for our people to make a determination. What we are doing here in terms of discussions back and forth is an effort to get the issues out in front of the people so that they can make an informed decision. But at the end of the day, it is their decision. And that is why I have said, in reference to Dr. Harris as the former Prime Minister, the only thing I want to hear from him is what is the date of election. That is what I'm interested in. That is what the people of Nevis are interested in. And I believe I can be presumptuous enough to say that is what the people of St. Kitts are interested in. When are we going to have the election so that they can vote and we can settle down and have the government that they decide that they want?
All right.
All right.
Continue fighting for my people, man. Continue fighting. I'm from Nevis as well. So
thank you, my brother. Fighting. Thank you. Thank you, and God bless you. All right. We have about 18 minutes left. 18. What am I doing here? My tally is off. We have about 14 minutes left. We're taking your calls. Let's go back to the phones. We've lost that caller. Callers, please be patient with us. Let's try again. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello? Hello? Caller? Okay, that caller doesn't want to talk to us. Let's try someone else. 869-469-1616, 1700. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Hi. Now, I guess by now musicians understand the concept of fairship. Now, I want musicians to understand the concept of representation. The NRP has said that if we vote them into the federal election, they would not claim or take a portfolio. So if they do not take a portfolio, then they won't be serving us to the best of their ability. So why are we going to get up and vote in somebody and put them in a position to sit and do nothing, or to stand and do nothing, or duck and do nothing? We want somebody who would claim a portfolio, that therefore when they are serving that portfolio, be Minister of Finance, Minister of International Affairs, or whatever, they can fairly say, this amount must be proportioned to Nevis, and this amount proportion to Thinkit, because it is a federal affair. They are there to serve our interests. Therefore, we cannot vote NRP in if they're not going to take a portfolio. People of Nevis, get up, rise up. It is a reformation party. They're reforming themselves over and over. And as far as I can see, they are reforming themselves to show that they do not have the interest of Nevis at heart.
Well, thank you very much for that. I don't think there's anything that I can add, because I believe that you are absolutely correct. If you're going in and saying, vote for me so that I won't take any position, I don't know that makes sense. Because essentially it means that you're not advocating for the people of Nevis. You're already telling them, vote for me so that your vote can be wasted. That doesn't make any sense to me. But I suspect with this NRP, you will have a different position by tomorrow or by the day after. Let's try again. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? Hello, caller?
Hello, good night. I take out me. Good night, I am Mark.
How are you, my dear?
I hear everything was going on, but do not stress yourself, because I didn't know, and I went with him to think better, and I work it out. So, don't let him stress you out. And you have a good night until you well fellow.
All right, my dear.
Drink your water and enjoy yourself. Don't let them stress you. Have a good night.
All right, you have a good night as well, and thanks for the call. Thank you so much, as always. I haven't heard your voice in a while. I hope that you are doing well. We have 10 minutes left. 869-469-1616 and 1700. Tomorrow night in Barnsgut, the heart of BG, the Blue Machine will be there, having a public meeting in Barnsgut. We're coming to Barnsgut because, of course, Barnsgut is a critical part of constituency number 11. And we're coming there to make the case to the people of Barnsgut and the surrounding areas of Jessops and Cotton Ground that the CCM is the best party to represent the people of Nevis in Bastia at this very difficult time. We need strong leadership. We need strong representation. We need representation that we can trust. And so I look forward at 8 o'clock tomorrow to seeing the people of St. Thomas's gather in Barnsgut for what promises to be a very informative meeting by the concerned citizens movement. Let's go back to the phones. We've lost that caller. Let's try this one. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark. Hello? Okay, if some of these callers are not answering the phone, when we pick up callers, please listen to the phone, not to your radio or your computer. There tends to be a bit of a delay. Let's try again. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yeah, me again, Mark.
Yes.
Somebody said you was a NRP and you're gone to see him. That's true? I don't know, but somebody told me so.
Oh, well, I don't know about that myself, so I wouldn't even bother to get in that about NRP and Town CCM. All right, you take care. I tell people that everybody in Nevis was NRP because we only had one party. So I don't know where this argument comes from, but that is neither here nor there. I am now here as the leader of the CCM. I'm committed to the ideals of the CCM, committed to the standards of leadership that the CCM has set, and I will continue to try my very best to represent the people of this beloved and God blessed island called Nevis. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Mr. Brantley.
Yes, good evening. Good evening. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, a while back you made about some letters wrote to Minister and the Prime Minister replied to you.
Yes.
Can you have those letters available to the public?
Yes, I can. Short answer is yes, I can, caller.
Okay, because I'm a voter, right? And I want to decide. I want to read the letter to see that has been written and replied to. Listen, and I got the feeling, exhausted in speaking to you about getting the fair share. Nevis. To me, what I was understanding, like he had an understanding final amount. So I am kind of to understand bridge and the concept with the because that was understanding as a voter.
Yeah, caller.
And if that was the
unfortunately, I don't know what device you're on.
That was the amount in discussion.
Okay. Caller, we'll have to cut the call because we're not hearing you properly. You're cutting in and out. You say you're a voter and you have some maybe misunderstanding. What I will tell you is I don't know why there's any misunderstanding. Dr. Timothy Harris was a signatory to the Charleston Accord. Unless he's going to say he did not know what the document contained when he signed it. We must assume that he knew what it contained because the document was as a result of discussions had between the three parties, CCM, PAM and PLP. He signed it. He put his signature to it. And therefore, I don't know what misunderstanding he could have thereafter because the document is clear. It is pellucid. The document says that CBI money will be shared on a pro rata population basis. All that means is that St. Kitts is going to get 75% and Nevis is going to get 25%. No confusion.
Okay. Okay. What I understand from him saying farm was to tell you that that is enough money that to relate that message to you. Then he said was to come in to tell you that is the amount that
Caller, we'll have to cut the call. I'm sorry I can't continue because I can't hear you and we're running out of time. So could we cut the call and see if we can get somebody else? Call, I'm terribly sorry because I think that you have a valid point to make, but it's not helpful because you keep hearing one or two words and the other words drop out. So I apologize to you. If you can call back in, maybe from a landline or something, it might be easier. But you've asked for the letters to be published and I will oblige and make them available because, you know, as I said, one thing about me, I'm very straightforward with how I operate. And there could be no confusion in the mind of anybody who signed the Charleston Accord as to what the provisions are. Anybody who says they're confused is misleading the public. They knew. And that is why when we said, okay, send this amount, it was intended to be an interim measure while we try to work out what the final numbers are going to be. Except that it is clear that in the eyes of the former Prime Minister, interim meant permanent. He looked like he never understand the word. So, my simple point, caller, is that there could be no confusion and any feigned confusion. That is just an act that is being put on now for members of the public. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. We've lost that caller, let's try another one. Good evening, you're on the mark. No, we don't have anybody. Ladies and gentlemen, we have about 5 minutes. We can take some calls. If you can call in and be very quick with what you have to say and to the point. The numbers again are 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Let's go. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Okay, good evening again. It's the same caller again.
Yes, good. I'm hearing you loud and clear now. Go ahead, quickly.
Standing of agreement. It was from your language.
Caller, I'm sorry. I don't know what kind of device you're using. Might be Flow, might be Digicel. I have no idea. But you keep cutting out. So I can't accommodate you because we can't hear you. And I apologize about that. I will simply say to you that there is nothing about my language which would confuse anyone. And there was nothing about the language in the document and agreement signed by Timothy Harris that could confuse him. Any suggestion by him that he is confused is an effort to mislead. And I leave that there. Are there any more calls? Can we go back to the phones? Just to say again to the general public that on Thursday, tomorrow, at 8 p.m., we have a massive public meeting in the great village of Barnsgut. The Concerned Citizens Movement, the Big Blue Machine, will be rolling out to BG tomorrow night at 8 p.m. And we're expecting one and all to come out and be a part of that meeting. We're taking our message into the highways and byways, into the alleys, into every crook and cranny of this little island. Our message is a message of hope. Our message is one of representation. Our message is one of standing up for Nevis. Our message is one of saying to the people of Nevis that the days of us riding at the back of the bus are over. It is time now for us to be treated fairly as equal citizens in our own country, with the full fruits of our citizenship being assigned and made available to us. And you must send representatives to Bastia who will insist on these as core principles from which we shall never depart. I believe that we have two parties on show right now in Nevis. One has been consistent in its representation. It has agitated for Nevis out of government, and even in government it was prepared to walk away rather than to stay in a government that was not living up to the commitments to the people of Nevis. The other party that lied to us and said it was wrong to run the same candidates and are now running the same candidates, that other party, bought and paid for, it appears, by the very people on St. Kitts who are seeking to oppress the people of Nevis. That other party cannot take a position in favor of the people of Nevis. They cannot stand up for Nevis, because to do so would anger their paymaster in Bastia. And so, you have that choice. We are asking you to come and to listen, to come out and inform yourselves. Don't base it on who somebody tell you, somebody say, that somebody say. Listen for yourselves, read for yourselves, and make an informed decision. Do we vote for hope? Do we vote for stability and strength? Do we vote for representation that we can trust? Or do we vote for people who have no demonstrated commitment to the people of Nevis? That's our show. The banner's struck up. It means we have to go. I want to thank all who called, all who are part of the show, and encourage you to listen again tomorrow at 1 p.m. as this show is rebroadcast. Again, join us in Barnsgut tomorrow night, 8 p.m. The Big Blue Machine will be in the great parish of St. Thomas's as we take our message to the people of number 11. Good night, and God bless you.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers. With all the